Good afternoon, everyone. I'm finally at Steamtown in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Steamtown is actually a national park now, and they have preserved a lot of old steam engines, some running, some not. And what we're looking at here is the Union Pacific Big Boy number 4012. This is one of the largest locomotives ever made. The restoration was started in 2019, and it was delayed a little bit in 2020. I'm sure you can figure out why. And they just rolled it back out this summer. I don't know the exact date, but I'll look it up and I'll put it in the video. May. So May 2021, this was rolled back out after undergoing an extensive cosmetic restoration. They have not restored it to running condition. I believe it's possible they could, but from what I've heard, the rails and infrastructure in our area do not support the running of a locomotive this big.
Where'd you hear that from?
I don't know, this guy said something about it. I hope he knows what he's talking about, or I'm going to sound like an idiot.
I don't even like trains.
It takes quite a while to walk around this beast. This is what they call a 4884 configuration. It's got four leading wheels on the front. You can see it's got its first set of cylinders and its first set of drive wheels, 4 on each side here. And then it's got a second set of cylinders with 4 more drive wheels on each side. So that's 16 total drive wheels. And you can see I'm not that tall. I'm 5'5", and I can actually walk under here without hitting my head. My hair is just touching this pipe here, so that gives you a sense of just how big and how tall this is. And then it's got another set of 4 wheels under the cab here. These are just trailing wheels. Here, a train running somewhere in the distance, probably Norfolk Southern. There's the cab. I honestly don't know what some of the remaining information is. I know what the 4884 is. I don't know what the 168 followed by all the fractions are. This thing's so big it's actually hard to photograph, it's hard to video. And if you're a rail fan, you know that it's basically its brother, 4014, was restored to working condition in 2019. And that has been touring the country. It was touring in 2019. It obviously got put on hold in 2020. And it's back to running now. They really only run it out in the western states, west of the Mississippi. I know they had brought it as far east as Chicago. We got a spider making its home here. I don't know how well you can see that. Hopefully the camera's there. It is. Thing looks absolutely, it's a huge spider, and it looks absolutely lost compared to this tender. This tender has 14 wheels. There were only 25 of these made, and they ran out west. You don't see Union Pacific in this part of the country running, at least. You do see some in the museums. And this is actually my second time seeing this locomotive. It's my first time seeing it restored. And where it used to be, if I pan across the parking lot here, there's the trolley museum, the electric trolley museum. I do want to go to that someday. We have an active freight yard for, I think it's Delaware, Lackawanna. And then across the parking lot is a Reading locomotive. Hope I'm zooming in right here. The lighting's not good out here, guys. And the city of Scranton in the background. Well, 4012 used to be, when I saw it the first time, it was parked where that Reading steam locomotive is now. And it was in terrible condition. Anyway, this tender holds 24,000 gallons of water. You can imagine This thing is just a hungry and thirsty beast when it comes to water and coal. You can see the end of the axle. I guess that's just some kind of cover, I guess, for the bearings. I'm not sure. But you got leaf spring suspension at each wheel. The wheel is more inboard. You can see it there. The rusted surface, slight surface rust, I should say. There's actually doors on the cab of this locomotive, locked shut, of course. There's actually two doors. I kid you not, the cab of this thing is bigger than my home office. And looking through here, we're actually between the locomotive and the tender. I think something's either broken or missing here, but that's the auger that actually used to deliver coal from the tender into the firebox. From what I understand, this thing was so hungry for coal that the fireman couldn't realistically keep up with it. And I believe 4014, the one that's running, has been converted to running on oil. They converted it to an oil burner, which has been done with other steam engines. This one hasn't been converted because it's not running. And I should add about 4014, if I understand right, it's the first big boy that has run since 1959. So even though these trains are absolutely iconic, in my lifetime one has never actually actively run until 2 years ago. So even though I feel like I've missed some chances to see it, hopefully there's going to be plenty more. Looking up here at the firebox, you can see all the rivets. And you can see the brake shoes here. You can see how big they are. Got to take a lot to stop something this size. You can see like this bolt here. See, this bolt here is, I can't even really wrap my hand around it. It's that big.
So look at this. I'm like 5'10" and a half. This wheel has the tie. 6 foot or so.
Give you a little more sense of size here. I'm out here with a couple other YouTubers. That's Nick from Nick's Crossing.
Jamie making guys.
When you see other people standing next to this, you can really appreciate just how big it is. It's amazing, isn't it?
One thing interesting on the first set of pistons inside here is actually a chain drive.
See, if you look down here, this is actually where sand will come out. Put sand down on the tracks to help the wheels get traction. And so that was the rear set of driving wheels and cylinders here, and now we're back to the front of the locomotive. You can see more of the leaf spring suspension above these driving wheels. driving rods here going all the way into the front set of cylinders. And it's just, again, to give you an idea of size. I mean, I know my hands are on the small side, but it's still just absolutely massive. This is one of the front set of wheels. That's maybe 3.5 feet in diameter, 3.5 feet big, but looking up here under the boiler, not sure what that ducting is for. I don't know if that's to get air or some kind of cooling. I wish I knew more about how these work. Got a chain here. It looks like it's been painted to the sprocket, but a guy who's out here mentioned that this has something to do with how they reverse the direction of the locomotive. Not sure exactly how that works. Someday I'm actually going to learn more about how these work so I can talk intelligently to you guys when I film them. Coming around to the front here, you have just your standard front coupler, and you've got your cow catcher, and this thing has a whole structure in front of the driving wheels. Here they got one of the front wheels chocked. Yeah, she certainly wouldn't want this train running away. I don't think you could stop it. The size of these chains here, I'm not sure what they're for. Just absolutely massive. Everything on this thing is absolutely massive. Alright, and I wanted to come back here a little further away to show you something, and I learned this just 2 days ago from fellow YouTuber JP Videos. He's actually out here. I think he's walking around by the tender right now with the other guys. They chose this for the new display location because of the curvature of the track. And if you really look at the front of the locomotive, you can see right now it's not looking very symmetrical. And that's, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that it's such a big locomotive that they had to build in articulation to get around the turns. And this is a pretty mild turn. But you can actually see the way they parked it out here. You can see how this leading set of front wheels, that's probably what that front structure's for, literally turns, you know, ahead of the boiler catching up with it and going through the turn. So it's a little bit offset the way they have it parked, which is pretty cool. I mean, I've heard about the articulation on these, but to actually see it firsthand is pretty cool. And thank you again, Jay, for pointing that out. I may or may not have picked up on that when I was here, so I'm glad you pointed it out, so I made sure I caught it. And just getting a better look at the front here, you've got the Union Pacific number 4012. You've got 4012 again by the front light. And then all the way up top you got 4012 again with its bell. It'd be neat if you could at least hear the bell. So I'll let you have one last look at this as I read the information plaque here. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It says locomotive number 4012 is a 4884 big boy. The big boys were the longest and among the largest and most powerful steam locomotives in the world. Even with their great size, the big boys were capable of reaching speeds in excess of 80 miles per hour. Steamtown's number 4012 is 132 foot 10 inches long and with a loaded tender weighs 1,189,500 pounds. In service, it carried 28 tons of coal, 24,000 gallons of water, and developed a tractive force of 135,375 pounds. 25 big boys were built exclusively for the Union Pacific Railroad prior to and during World War II. They hauled long, heavy troop and freight trains over the steep grades of the Wasatch Mountains east of Salt Lake City. They were the ultimate in modern, mainline, heavy-duty steam locomotives. And the only one I can think of that's comparable to this is the B&O Allegheny that I saw on my summer adventure to the B&O Railroad Museum. But for now, I'm going to end the narrative part of this video, and stay tuned for a slideshow. Thank you for watching.